So today, this one is lecture number 31. So we will talk about Gram-Smith process and its application to find orthogonal transformation. So orthogonal transformation, you can say that it is just coming as a generalization of orthogonal projection that we had already seen that. So orthogonal transformation, it happens like that way. If you apply a transformation, this kind of transformation over any vector, suppose x, you are taking any vector, then what will happen under this transformation? It is a norm invariant. That means a norm of the image of x would be equal to a norm of the image. That means it preserves distance. So if you apply a orthogonal transformation over any vector, then it is not going to change the norm of the vector, but only what it will do, it will change the orientation. That means it will change the angle. So that kind of transformation we will discuss, and it is highly dependent on orthonormal basis. So coming to detailed outline of today's lecture, first I would like to discuss about, I will give a recap of whatever we discussed in last class. That means more important that while doing that performing Gram-Smith process, as a byproduct, we are getting QR factorization. So QR factorization is a byproduct of Gram-Smith process. That's way I will give a few, I will talk a few things about this. Then I will go directly discuss about orthogonal transformation and the matrix which is involved with this transformation. That matrix we will call it orthogonal matrix. So I had already told that if you are having a linear transformation from one vector space or linear space to another vector space, then what you observe always that transformation you can represent by a matrix. That means there is a matrix, so that the image of x under T you can get just by multiplying the matrix with the corresponding vector. That means P of x equal to Ax. So this scenario you have already seen. Now we will try to see a special kind of transformation which is orthogonal. So if our transformation is orthogonal, then it will imply that the corresponding matrix will be also orthogonal, and all concept would be here. That what I had already told, that if I am finding matrix of a transformation, then your next question would be matrix with respect to which basis. So that question must be here. But by default, if nothing is mentioned here, basis is not mentioned here, then by default we take a standard basis E. So here you can observe that in question, in this discussion, I haven't mentioned basis. So by default you can consider a standard basis E. If some basis is mentioned there, then definitely you will not get this matrix A, you will get another matrix. That matrix would be similar to this matrix. So that similarity of matrix also I had already discussed. And in time permit, then I will talk about least approximate solution. So when we are talking about least approximate solution, so in first module you have already seen that two scenario. If you are having a system, then you can write in this form Ax equal to B. Then two scenario is coming. One is consistent. That means if system is having at least one solution, then we are calling it consistent. So consistent, in case of consistent, what you observe, either the system will have one solution or the system will have more than one solution, infinitely many solutions. It is meaning of consistent. And when system is having no solution, then that situation we are calling it inconsistent. But here we are calling linear algebra what it is a computational mathematics. Anyhow we have to compute a solution that would be not exact solution, but it would be an approximate solution. So that approximate solution we will call it least approximate solution, and we can calculate this least approximate solution with the help of this orthogonal transformation, and it is part of this module. So when system is inconsistent, then we are looking for a least approximate solution. And the same problem, if you study in probability and stat, then that problem we will call it regression. Name is changing, the problem is same. Coming to recap of Gram-Smith factorization and QR factorization. So in QR factorization, I had told that QR factorization, it is coming as a byproduct of Gram-Smith process. While doing that Gram-Smith process, that's how we do. So actually Gram-Smith process, if you present a change of basis from old basis B having a basis element V1, V2 up to Vn to a new orthonormal basis A, which is having a basis element U1, U2 up to Un. All these are happen to be orthonormal in nature. Okay, so what is, and the construction is happening in such a way UI has been constructed from VI in a very a standard way, that with the help of orthogonal projection. So furthermore, while doing this process, we came to know that the matrix whose columns are these old basis element can be factored into two matrices Q and R, where Q happens to be a matrix whose column are coming from orthonormal. We construct a newly constructed orthonormal basis. First column would be U1, second column would be U2, and last column would be UN, like way. And what is R? R is a upper triangle matrix, or you can simply say that it is a change of basis matrix from old basis B to new orthonormal basis A. So R is a change of basis matrix. So we have already, so we had, this one was the given, and the given matrix we are able to factorize in two matrix Q and R, and Q are having very special structure. One, that Q is orthogonal matrix. It is ortho. So as in short, I will write it OGM, orthogonal matrix. And what is R? R is upper triangle matrix. So if you are having this kind of a structure, then further you can utilize the property of the corresponding matrix. So it is R is upper triangular matrix. So what are the property of orthogonal matrix? I had already told that if you are willing to find inverse of orthogonal matrix, then what, just do transpose, then you will get inverse. So inverse of a orthogonal matrix is just uh, transpose of that matrix. So uh, Q inverse would be equal to Q transpose. And in also you are having upper triangle matrix, easily you can realize eigenvalue and other kind of things. Those things I will discuss in detail. Eigenvalue concept will come in next module. So that time you will see the beauty of being a upper triangle matrix or diagonal matrix, those kind of things. Also, the orthogonal matrix is also having very interesting property with respect to eigenvalue as well. So those things we will discuss. So in detail, all these whatever discussion we had already seen, that we can summarize through this picture. And then in last class I had already mentioned that how you can get M. What is M? M, you can simply say that it is a change of basis matrix from basis A, basis B to a standard basis E. So M simply you can represent as a change of basis matrix from B to A, and calculation you can recall from previous class. What is R? R is also, you can say that just observe the direction. It says that R is a change of basis matrix from uh, basis B to newly constructed orthonormal basis A. And what is Q? Q is talking about change of basis matrix from uh, orthonormal basis A to a standard basis E. So this relation, just for your understanding purpose, I am again writing it. You need to understand it. Anyhow, you need to, if you really want to get a proper application of linear algebra from basis perspective, always try to understand all these summarized visuals. So you, once you when you understand all these, then definitely things will be very much clear to you. So, and also we had decomposed Vj in the form of this projected part Vj parallel and Vj perp. This one is perpendicular part, and Vj perp happens to be where? It happens to be the in the span of first uh, first j minus 1 basis, alt basis element of B. In that process, because u first uj also are coming from first first j minus 1 are coming also coming from first uh, v minus v vj minus 1. So j minus 1 v vi's, you can say that first ui's are coming from what? So first j minus, you can say that first j minus are highly dependent are constructed from, first ji's are constructed from where? Constructed from first j minus, call it first j minus v ui's, you know, that j minus ui's orthonormal vector has been constructed from where? From first j minus 1 vi's. Vi happens to be odd basis element. So that's way we can represent Vj as a linear combination of first uh, j minus 1 ui's, that is, you can see it here. It is a linear combination of u1 linear combination plus linear combination of u2 plus linear combination of j minus 1. Now come to this Vj perp. What is Vj perp? Happens to perpendicular to all the previous ui's. So in that perspective, what we do, uj, how we get uj, we are getting by normalizing Vj perp. So that's way Vj perp can be written as norm of Vj perp times uj. So you can see that Vj you have expressed as a linear combination of first j uj, first j number of ui, first j number of ui, that means first orthonorm j number of orthonormal factor you have already expressed. So these things easily, these things also allowing that what are the entries of R. So entries R happens to be ortho, it is upper triangle matrix. So rji, I had already discussed all this. So rij, it would be non-negative, and even you can say that non-zero, that means positive number when I is less than j. And rjj, it would be just norm of j per, and rij, it would be a zero when I is greater than j. So that's why R is a upper triangle matrix. Next we will discuss uh, that I had already also initiated this factorization of this matrix. So we had a matrix, this matrix. So we will consider this as that we are having two factor v1 and v2, vi's. So this one we are calling it v1, and this one we are calling it v2. Our task is we have to uh, uh, factor this one into qr. Then how can you factor? We can factor this by using Gram-Schmidt orthogonalization process. That means first step is that, what is first step? We are listing column of M as V1 and V2. That means we are saying V1 and V2 happens to be basis of column space of M. Next task is that we have to construct orthonormal vector u1 and u2. So easily we can get u1, there is no issue. Now in order to get u2, so you have to find v2 per, then u2 would be normalized version of v2 per. So you got everything it here. So this is the step to get normalized version, orthonormal vectors. And in step 3 you have to find upper triangle matrix R as a change of basis matrix from uh, old basis B, that means having basis element v1 v2, to new basis that having basis element u1 and u2. And in order to that you will get that R is what it is, upper triangle matrix having these are the entry, and the last step just represent M, the given matrix M, as a product of u and R. So this one was the algorithm. Again I have written algorithm, but the solution I will talk it here. So here directly I'm not, I will not recall those general perspective directly here. In this what we will do, we will try to factor the matrix M into QR. So directly we are, so first step is listing a step, second step calculation of or construction of orthonormal vector. So u1 would be what? it is normalized version of V1. So directly V1 is this one. So what is the norm of V1? We will divide V1 by norm of V1. So norm of V1 would be what? 4 plus 1 plus 4, and do a square root of that. So a square root of 9. A square root of 9 is what? 3. So that norm of V1 is 3. Norm of V2 is what? Right now we don't need to calculate norm of V2, just we need to calculate norm of V1. So we got first unit vector u1. Now in order to get second unit vector u2, what we have to do, we have to find V2 per. So we got, this is the V2 per, this is the final V2 per. So V2 per this vector that's having entry minus 4 4 minus 2. Now we will find the norm of this one. Norm is 6. So our next unit vector, which is orthogonal to u1 as well, it would be normalized form of V2 per. That means we are dividing by norm of V2 per, and norm of V2 per is what? It is 6. So and also it is coming minus 4 4 4. So I have taken 2 common, so 2 by 6, that means 1 by 3, and minus 2 to 1. So this one is your second orthonormal vector. So you got u1, you got u2. So using same the definition of V2 per, you can replace you can write V2 how it is a linear combination of u1 and u2, and with these coefficients. So coefficient easily you can get. So this coefficient would be what? It is just 9, and this coefficient would be 6. So you say that V2 it is written as 9 times u1 plus 6 times u2. So this representation is giving just in order to find a change of basis matrix R. So we are having, so during this process we got our orthonormal basis of the column space of M. We got orthonormal basis. Orthonormal basis we had already this one. So second step is lengthy one, it is already completed. Now in third step we will find uh, change of basis matrix from basis B to newly constructed orthonormal basis A. So what is the first column? First column is talking about coordinate vector of first basis element, fault basis element, basis V1 with respect to new basis. So what is the coordinate? So here you can see that here what you observe, V1 is what? This construction say that V1 is what? This just it is a norm of V1 times U1, and there is no uh, U2 factor. So you can say that here plus 0 times U2 you are getting. So you got your R. R is having first column, what is? It is norm of V1, and second entry is 0. And now similarly, what is the coordinate of V2 with respect to newly constructed basis A? So it is 9 and 6. So you can observe that 9 and 6 easily. And coordinate vector of V1 with respect to A is 3 0. So you got change of basis matrix. Now what you do? So so lastly, you can you got R, you got Q from the step 2, and M is already given. So easily you can verify that if you multiply Q with R, then definitely this product would be equal to M. So that's why. So that's why. What does it mean? You have factored M into two matrix Q and R. So that is the ultimate aim. So I just I'm giving something more. I will talk about something more about algorithmic approach of finding QR factorization. So we consider a m by n matrix with linearly independent columns given up to bn. So I am directly putting this algorithm. Last algorithm was with respect to uh, that Gram-Schmidt orthogonalization process with respect to basis element. Now we are transforming this one as a matrix perspective. So both are equivalent representation. There is no difference. So consider an m by n matrix M with linearly independent columns V1, V2 up to Vn. Then the columns of U1, U2, Ui. So how you are getting this? These Vi, Uis you are getting from Vi by using Gram-Schmidt process, and these are forming the column of orthogonal matrix Q, and the entries Rij of R can be computed in the following step. So step 1, you have to what you have to do, first uh, find the first column of R, and in that process also you will get first column of orthogonal matrix Q. It is little bit different than that, but job is same. In the step 2, what we will do, we will find the second column of R, that means change of basis matrix. In that process we will get second column of Q as well. In the third step, similarly we will find third column of R. In that process we will get third column of the orthogonal matrix Q, and so on. We have to keep on doing up to nth step. That means it depends upon dimension of the matrix. So what is the order of matrix? So we have to go up to, oh sorry, here m is given, so mth, you have to go up to mth. So in order to get that QR factorization. So so same all these step I have written here. You can say that that means in first step what you do. So you had what was the representation of u1, how you got first unit vector. So by normalizing the given vector v1, uh, that means how do you normalize, you divide v1 by norm of v1. So it says that v1 is what, v1 is saying that it is norm of v1 times u1, norm of v1 times u1. So if I am asking what is the uh, coordinate of v1 with respect to standard basis, with respect to newly constructed orthogonal basis A, so that would give first column of our change of basis matrix. What our change of basis matrix R. So what is the coordinate? So coordinate would be, it is just having non-zero coefficient, u1 is having non-zero coefficient and other are having. In v1 you can observe that only u1 is present, that means other u1 u2 u3 u4 up to un all are what, all are having zero coefficient. So what is the coordinate vector of v1 with respect to newly constructed orthogonal basis A is what, it is talking about first coordinate is norm of v1 and other coordinate are 0. So we should not worry about to write all those. So it will go up to infinity. So dotted line I have put it. So that's why R11 is what it is talking about. That means first entry R11 it would be just norm of V1, and what is U1? U1 is 1 by norm of V1 into V1. So this one is U1. So you are getting what is this? It is giving uh, first column of Q. This one is talking about first column of Q. This one is talking about first column of R. That means R11 is non-zero entry and other entries are 0. Similarly, if you come to second step, what we observe that R12 it is given by what? How can you get it R12? Again, using the concept of the construction process. Again, I should not recall those things. So it might be understood from you. So R12 is what? Directly you are getting it. It is dot product of V2 with U1. R12, and what is V2 perp? V2 perp would be definitely perpendicular to U1, and so V2 perp is V2 minus dot product of V2 with U1. That one is nothing, just R12 in the direction of U1. So this one is V2 perp. And R22 what would be? It would be just normalization. You do normalization of V2 perp in order to get U2. So this factor, the norm factor would be R22, and U2 is finally it is normalized version of V2 perp. So this one is directly giving, talking about second column of Q. In that process also you will get R33 U3 1 3, all these constructions happen like this way. First you try to find R entries of R. In that process you are also getting then you are getting entries of Q as well. So that means M is already given here. You just need to get entries of R and Q. So that is the process. So this process, it will keep on going until you are getting all these two matrices, every entry of these two matrices. So that is the algorithmic process. So now I'm coming to a main part of today's lecture that I had mentioned, orthogonal transformation. What does it talk about? So orthogonal transformation and the matrix associated with orthogonal transformation, we are calling it orthogonal matrix. So consider a linear transformation, which is defined from Rn to Rn. We will call it orthogonal if it preserves the length of the vector. So only definition of orthogonal transformation is that it is a linear transformation. Definitely, it has to satisfy linearity property. That what is the property of linear transform? What is the definition of linear transformation? It says that if you are taking a scalar multiple of two vector x and y, then it preserves the scalar multiplication, or it preserves the linear combination. Alpha times x plus image of alpha times x plus beta times y is equal to linear combination of the corresponding images. That means, in short, linear transformation is nothing that it preserves linear combination. So this one was the definition of linear transformation. So we are taking a linear transformation. Apart from being a this linear transformation, it also do one more thing. What that it preserves the length of the vector. That means length of x would be equal to length of image of x. So that means this criteria, I would like to say that. So this linear transformation is you can say that invariant with respect to length invariant linear transformation. Another way also you can say that. So such kind of transformation, we are calling it orthogonal transformation. And the matrix, so once we are having a linear transformation, we can always associate that matrix uh, a matrix such that T of x equal, it would be equal to A times x, and this matrix, the associate matrix, would be we call it orthogonal matrix. One example I have already taken here. If you are defining a linear transformation like this way, T of x equal to this cos theta minus sin theta cos theta times x. This if you are defined like this way, so this one is what? It is a rotation transformation. So this rotation transformation, it is a orthogonal transformation. And what is the matrix of this transformation? Matrix of this transformation is just this matrix cos theta sin theta minus sin theta cos theta. This matrix is always a orthogonal matrix. Now if you try to zoom out orthogonal matrix, what property you observe? That column wise zoom out means try to see columns of orthogonal matrix. So for this matrix, it is orthogonal matrix. What you observe it here, if you take first column, what is the norm of first column? Norm of first column would be cos square, square root of cos square theta. What is the, so call it u1. This one is the first column. Second column is u2. And what is the norm of u1? Norm of u1 easily you can find it. It is talking about a square root of inner product of u1 with itself. So what would be that? It will talk about cos square theta into plus sin square theta. Cos square theta plus sin square theta. And you know from high school mathematics, what is cos square theta plus sin square theta? It is 1. You're right, bit above. So so that means norm of u1 is 1. Similarly, norm of u2 would be also a square root of cos square theta plus sin square theta. That means norm of u2 is also 1. And what about that? So that means u1 and u2 are unit vector. And second condition is what? Try to find the dot product between these two. What is the dot product between these two? So dot product is again here 0. Easily you can establish dot product between these two, u1 and u2. So that will come as 0. So you can say that in an orthogonal matrix, we observe column happens to be orthonormal vectors. So in orthogonal matrix, column happens to be orthonormal vector. That one is very tricky concept. You need to understand that. I will take one example there. You will see one difference as well. So I am taking one more example of orthogonal transformation. That one is related with the reflection transformation. Reflection, we had already seen that reflection either with respect to a line or with respect to a plane or with respect to a subspace. So if you define a reflection with respect to some subspace, then that reflection transformation, it happens to be a orthogonal transformation. So here I have taken a subspace. Here subspace is, it is a line. It is a line. So with respect to this line, we try to reflect every point of the given uh, two dimensional. So consider it is a two dimensional. So reflection is defined from R2 to R2. So we are taking, we are defining reflection how. So during module 2 I had given another representation of reflection. So here it was both are equivalent, there is no. So reflection, what is, if you are taking this one is x, reflection of x with respect to this line is what, it is reflection. So call it ref, reflection of x with respect to given subspace V. This V is a line. Okay, so this one is the reflection point. So it is all about what is given thing. This is given, x is given. So now you are having enough idea to decompose x into two part. One is the projected part. This one is the this one is per v per part, and we have enough idea about x per. Sorry, this one is x per part. And what would be if you consider this one is as a reference line? What would be this? This one would be minus negative of x per. This one will be negative of x bar. So from the vector sum property you can say that what is reflection of x with respect to this line subspace V, it would be what, it would be just sum of this projected part plus sum of this translated part minus negative of V per, negative of x per. This is the, so that I have written here. So it is, so reflection you are defining as difference of projection of x minus v per. During model 2, we were not interested much in, we had no interest regarding v per. Now here in model 3, we are always talking about orthogonal kind of situation. That's why x perp is very interesting. So we have to proceed with that. So this is the definition of reflection. So we will see that it is a always this transformation is always a orthogonal transformation. How? So again, what definition I had told that it is a when a transformation, linear transformation is orthogonal, then when it preserve norm, it preserve length. That means we will find a norm of tx, and we will come to know norm of ts is nothing, just it is equal to norm of x. Then we will say that we will validate that t is a orthogonal transformation. So that concept it is already given here. So we directly we are finding a norm of t of x. So norm of t of x equal to what? T of x is defined as like this way. Projection of x minus x per. So and also from the geometry also you can observe that what is the angle, what is the angle between these two vector x or these component x, projection of x, that means x parallel is perpendicular to negative of x per. So using Pythagoras theorem, how can you find this length? Pythagoras theorem, what say, if you are having a right angle triangle, then third side, and this one is side A, this one is side B, and this one is side C. Then how you find length of side C, longest side? You just do a square root of a square of to other side. That means C is what? C is equal to B square plus C square. That means a square of length of the side which are making angle 90 degree with each other. So same criteria we are applying here. We know that x parallel is perpendicular to negative of x par. So that's way norm of this one. This is the largest side. So norm of this one would be equal to norm of this plus norm of this. Okay. So but also we know that this is what? It is just a negative of x par. So norm of negative of x par would be equal to norm of x par. So we come across to see that norm of t of x equal to norm of x parallel plus norm of x par. Further, try to see it here. Again, x is what? X it is decomposed as x parallel and x par, and also we observe angle between x parallel and x perp is 90 degree. So we can say that norm of x would be sum of norm of x parallel plus uh, sum of norm of x parallel and uh, x perp. So that's way this one is nothing. This summation is nothing. It is norm of x. So we have already seen that norm of t of x equal to norm of x. It says that reflection is a orthogonal transformation. Just it satisfied the definition of orthogonal transformation. That means it preserve length of the vector. Further, one more interesting property you will observe in orthogonal transformation, that it preserves the orthogonality. That means it says that if you are having two vector in the domain of space and you observe that angle between these two vector are 90 degree, that means perpendicular to each other. That means you can say that in term of inner product, it is inner product between of u with v with w is what? 0. Then we can claim that it implies that the inner product of image corresponding images, that means dot product of tv with tw would be also 0. That means tv and tw also these two would be perpendicular to each other. If it happens that we are given that v and w are perpendicular to each other, then it will imply tv and tw are also perpendicular to each other. So that means orthogonal transformation, it preserves orthogonality. So I have taken here in systematic way, consider an orthogonal linear transformation T from Rn to Rn. If you are taking two vectors v and w in Rn, that means in the domain, which are orthogonal, then so are Tv and Tx. That means if v and w are orthogonal, that means perpendicular to each other, then also it will imply that Tv and Tw are also orthogonal to each other. So from the geometry, you can observe that we have taken a vector v and w. What is the angle between v and w? It is 90 degree. Okay, and this becomes v plus w. And the what v is under t, v has been transformed to this vector. Under t, w has been transformed to this vector. Again, we observe that the angle between uh, T of V and T of W, it preserves. It is again 90 degrees. So that is the interesting fact of orthogonal transformation, that it preserves orthogonality. It is not going to change the angle between two vectors. So even something more you can talk about that orthogonal under orthogonal transformation, it preserves the angle as well. So here I have already given a algebraic proof of that this how it preserve orthogonality of two vectors. So we have taken that v and w are orthogonal to each other. So directly we are finding norm of a square of norm of tv plus tw, and we will come across to this simplification. You will see that norm of a square of norm of tv plus tw is equal to what? A square of norm of tv plus a square of norm of tw. What does it say? It is just Pythagoras theorem. It is saying Pythagoras theorem. That means when it is happening, when you are able to express norm of this one as a sum, a square of norm of this one as a sum of a square of norm of lower side, a smaller side when you observe the angle between a smaller side is 90 degree. That means it is a famous criteria of Pythagoras theorem. So it satisfies Pythagoras theorem, or you can also say that this law is, you can say that it is a Pythagoras law. So it satisfies Pythagoras law. That's why orthogonal transformation always preserve orthogonality. Another property with respect to basis, we can say that if you are having a linear transformation T Rn from Rn, then we will say it is orthogonal if the images of a standard basis element form a orthonormal basis of Rn. Suppose you are having a, so what does it says? Suppose you are having a any linear transformation, and with respect to that linear transformation, you don't know whether that one is orthogonal transformation or not. So now just find the images of a standard basis element, and if those standard basis element image of a standard basis element happens to be orthonormal set of vectors, n orthonormal set of vector, and definitely if it is n orthonormal set of vector, then it will be linearly independent, and hence it will form a basis of Rn. So you are getting a orthonormal basis of Rn. Then we can say that the given transformation is a orthonormal transformation. So one example, geometrical visualization, you can see it here. What you observe that, and the also corresponding matrix associated with T is also orthogonal. So you can observe that in R2, I have taken an example. It is a linear transformation from R2 to R2, and under this transformation, we can observe that E1 is mapped to uh, here along the direction of 1 1, and U2 is mapped to along the direction of where? Along the direction of negative 1 1. So and so in after this transformation, what we observe that the angle between 1 1 and minus 1 1, what is the angle? Angle is 90 degree. That means these T of E1 and T of E2 are perpendicular to each other. Also, it would be unit vector as well. So due to that, we can say that this transformation is a orthogonal transformation. Now, suppose we are taking a orthogonal matrix whose columns happens to be orthogonal but not orthonormal. Then we can't say that matrix is a orthogonal matrix. So this is the example. It is not a orthogonal matrix. So here we can observe that first column is 4 3, second column is minus 3 4. What is the dot product between these two? Dot product between these two, if you are going to call it, this one is V1, this one is second column is V2. If you are willing to calculate angle between these two, then just do dot product or inner product. So dot product between these two with respect to standard basis, I have already mentioned that basis is not mentioned. If basis is not mentioned, always calculate inner product with respect to standard basis. So what is the uh, inner product or dot product? 12 times minus 3, that means minus 12 plus 3 times 4, that means 12. So minus 12 plus 12, in total it is equal to 0. So that means these two V1 and V2 are perpendicular to each other, but V1 and V2 are not orthogonal. So V1 and V2 are orthogonal to each other, but V1 and V2 are not unit vector. So how can we, so this A is given matrix A is not orthogonal matrix, but it can be reduced to orthogonal matrix. How? So again, do normalization. Uh, Find U1 by normalizing V1. Normalize, that means divide V1 with its norm V1. And how you will get U2? You don't need to get directly V2 per 2. Directly V2 is itself perpendicular to U1, so directly it will give a second U2. U2 would be normalized form of V2. So V2 divided by norm of V2. Norm of V2 is what? 5. So that means what is U1? U1 is again, it is 4 by 3, 4 by 5, 3 by 5. You can observe that this one is a unit vector or a vector with norm 1, and u2 is what? It would be minus 3 by 5, and second entry would be 4 by 5. So here you can observe that u1 and u2 are orthonormal vectors. So that's way this matrix q with respect to that u1 and u2, if you are taking as a column, that means q you got by normalizing column of a, then this matrix is a orthogonal matrix. But this one is not a orthogonal matrix. It is not a orthogonal matrix. So in short, I will write not a orthogonal matrix. But this Q is a orthogonal matrix. It is a orthogonal matrix. So that means only thing you remember that in a orthogonal matrix, your column must be orthonormal vector. That is the criteria. So further here I have taken one example. So we have to prove that this matrix is a orthogonal matrix. So in order to prove this matrix is a orthogonal matrix, what we will see, first criteria we have to see that column must be what? Unit vector. That means norm must be 1, and second, each column must be perpendicular to other column. That means orthogonal to other column. So call it u1, this one is u2, this one is u3, this one is u4. So it is a homework. Just try to find inner product of u1 with u2 and vice others as well. So definitely inner product would be 0. Also find a norm of u1. That means norm of u1 is talking about what is this one? It is a square root of inner product of u1 with itself. So this one is giving norm of u1. Norm of u1 equal to a square root of inner product u1 with itself. So you will come across to see that a norm of u1 would be nothing. It is just 1. So verification. So it this given matrix, it is a orthogonal matrix. Okay, it is already 45 minutes. So other things we will cover in next class, and tomorrow is tutorial class. In between, if you are having any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, I am going to wind up today.